The power of consistency. 10 rules that build discipline and success. 1. Small steps every day. Tiny actions build giant results. Success was never about giant leaps, it was about small, repeated moves. Reading 10 pages, writing 1 paragraph, or practicing 10 new words in English may feel small, but repeated daily, it compounds into greatness. 1 step a day looks slow, but 10 years later, people call it mastery. When people looked at success, they often believed it came from one big moment, like a sudden idea, a big win, or a huge opportunity. But in reality, it was never about one event. It was always about the simple, small things that happened again and again over time. Imagine planting a tiny seed. On the first day, nothing seemed to change. On the second day, it still looked the same. But as the days and weeks passed, the seed grew into a plant, then into a tree. The same rule worked for learning, working, and building a strong life. Many people gave up because they wanted quick results. They wanted to see change in a week or a month. When they did not see progress fast enough, they felt tired and stopped. But those who stayed, who kept doing the small steps even when it felt slow, built something powerful. Reading only 10 pages a day did not seem much, but in 1 year, that was more than 3,000 pages, many books finished. Writing 1 paragraph a day looked small, but in a year, it became a full book. Practicing 10 words in English every day may not look impressive, but after 1 year, that was over 3,000 new words, enough to change someone's confidence forever. Consistency worked like compound interest in money. Just as saving a little every day turned into a fortune over time, doing a little every day built skills that looked like magic later. People often underestimated how strong small actions could become. They thought one day did not matter, but it did. Every single day was a brick, and after years, those bricks became a strong house. Small steps also gave power because they felt possible. A person may not have the time or energy to run a marathon today, but they could walk for 10 minutes. They may not be able to write a whole book today, but they could write 1 page. These small promises to themselves were easier to keep, and keeping promises built trust in themselves. Day by day, that trust grew stronger. In English learning, this truth became very clear. No one became fluent in 1 week. Fluency was built slowly, with daily actions. 1 short conversation, 1 page of reading, 1 listening exercise. All of these felt small, but together they changed everything. The learners who practiced every day, even for 15 minutes, always went further than those who studied a lot in 1 day and then stopped for weeks. Small steps were also important because they built habits. Habits removed the need for constant motivation. If a person brushed their teeth every day, they did not need to think about it anymore. The same happened with learning or discipline. Once a small action became a habit, it became natural. It no longer felt heavy. And that was how people grew without even noticing it. The beauty of small steps was that they were not scary. They did not demand perfection. They only asked for 1 action today. That made progress less stressful and more enjoyable. Instead of being afraid of failure, people could smile at their journey, knowing that even 1 small effort was moving them forward. In the end, mastery was not built by sudden big leaps. It was the quiet power of showing up every single day. 1 small action repeated many times became unstoppable. One brick a day built a castle. One word a day built a new language. One step a day built a new life. 2. Focus on the process, not the outcome. Fall in love with the journey, not just the destination. When people thought about success, they often imagined the final picture. The dream job, the perfect body, the fluent English, the big house. They saw the end but forgot about the path. The truth was, the result did not appear by itself. It was the process that created it. If someone only stared at the destination, they became frustrated when it took too long. But if they learned to enjoy the process, they stayed consistent, and the results came naturally. The process was everything that happened daily. It was waking up early to read, sitting at the desk to write, or practicing words even when tired. These actions looked ordinary, but they were the true engine of change. When a person focused on the process, they stopped worrying about how far they still had to go. Instead, they paid attention to the step in front of them, and that made the road lighter. For example, in English learning, someone who only dreamed of fluency often felt frustrated because fluency seemed too big and too far. But a learner who focused on enjoying today's lesson, listening to one podcast, or writing a short message to a friend, stayed motivated. They grew slowly but surely. One day, without even noticing, they realized they could speak, read, and understand more than before. The process brought fluency, not the dream alone. The process also built patience. Life rarely gave fast rewards. Seeds took months to grow. Muscles took years of training. Skills took thousands of hours. Those who rushed gave up early. But those who focused on the process accepted that growth was slow but certain. They trusted the journey, and because of that trust, they kept walking. Another secret of the process was that it created identity. When someone ran every day, they became a runner. When someone read every day, they became a reader. When someone practiced English every day, they became a speaker. The process shaped who they were. The outcome was just a reflection of the identity that the process had already created. Focusing on the process also removed fear of failure. If the goal was only the outcome, every small mistake felt like a disaster. But if the goal was the process, mistakes were part of the game. A person could smile, adjust, and keep moving. For example, mispronouncing a word in English was not a failure if the process was daily practice. It was just one more brick in the wall of growth. Enjoying the process also brought peace. Instead of living in the future, people could live in the present moment. They could enjoy the music of words while learning English, enjoy the movement while exercising, and enjoy the silence while reading. The process became life itself, not just a tool to reach something else. In the end, success was not about rushing to the destination. It was about falling in love with the road, step by step, day by day. Those who loved the process never quit, because they were already winning every time they showed up. 3. Discipline over motivation. Motivation starts the journey, discipline keeps it alive. Motivation was like a spark. It burned bright, but it also disappeared quickly. People often waited for motivation to act, but that was a mistake. Motivation was unreliable. It came and went like the weather. Discipline, however, was steady. It was the habit of doing something even when the heart did not feel like it. Discipline turned ordinary people into masters. In English learning, Many students felt motivated on the first day. They bought books, downloaded apps, and promised themselves they would study for hours. But when the excitement faded, they stopped. Motivation left, and so did their practice. The learners who succeeded were the ones who replaced motivation with discipline. They studied a little every day, even when they were tired, even when they did not feel like it. Step by step, they built fluency not with excitement but with steady effort. Discipline also created freedom. At first, it looked like a prison. Waking up early, following a schedule, practicing daily. But with time, it gave control. A person who trained discipline was free from laziness, free from fear, and free from regret. They did not wait for perfect conditions because they carried their own power inside. Motivation depended on mood, but discipline depended on choice. Each day was a new decision. Show up or give up. Those who chose to show up built strength. They discovered that discipline was not about punishment but about commitment. It was a promise they made to themselves and kept every single day. Discipline also created consistency, and consistency created results. A writer who wrote 1 page a day produced a book in a year. A learner who practiced 10 words a day learned thousands in a year. The math was simple, but the practice was rare. People who mastered discipline did not need to rely on luck. They built their future brick by brick. Even the greatest talents in the world used discipline more than motivation. Athletes trained when their bodies hurt. Musicians practiced when they were bored. Students repeated lessons when they were tired. Success was never about always feeling inspired. It was about showing up no matter what. For English learners, this lesson was clear. Waiting for motivation meant speaking rarely, practicing sometimes, and forgetting often. Using discipline meant speaking daily, writing regularly, and remembering always. Motivation could open the door, but only discipline could walk you through it. In the end, people who lived by discipline did not need to chase motivation anymore. They created their own momentum. Their actions fed their progress, and their progress fed their confidence. Discipline became their secret weapon, stronger than any burst of temporary excitement. 4. Progress, not perfection. Better done imperfectly than never started. Perfection was a trap that stopped many people from moving forward. They waited for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect skill before taking action. But perfection never came. Days turned into months, and months turned into years, while they stayed in the same place. The truth was simple. Progress mattered more than perfection. A small imperfect action was always better than no action at all. In learning English, perfection was a heavy chain. Many learners stayed silent because they were afraid to make mistakes. They wanted every sentence to sound flawless, every word to be correct. But silence gave them nothing. The ones who improved were those who spoke with mistakes, wrote with errors, and asked questions even when they were not sure. Their imperfect practice turned into steady growth, while perfectionists remained stuck. Progress was visible in small wins. Reading 1 page today, writing 2 sentences tomorrow, or remembering 1 new word the next day might look small, but together, they created a strong foundation. Each action added to the next, forming a chain that grew stronger every day. Progress was not loud or flashy, it was quiet, steady, and unstoppable. Perfection, on the other hand, created pressure. It whispered that nothing was good enough. It made people feel weak and afraid of trying. But progress gave hope. Every little step reminded learners that they were moving forward, even if slowly. Step by step, progress built confidence, and confidence created courage for bigger challenges. The most successful people in life were never perfect. They made mistakes, corrected them, and moved on. Athletes lost games, writers threw away drafts, and speakers forgot words on stage. But they all continued. Their progress was built on failures, and those failures were their teachers. English learners needed the same mindset. Waiting to speak perfectly was like waiting for the sun at midnight. It would never happen. Speaking imperfectly today was the only road to speaking confidently tomorrow. Each broken sentence carried hidden lessons, and each mistake pushed them closer to fluency. Progress was alive, perfection was dead. Those who chose progress kept moving, kept growing, and kept learning. In time, their imperfect steps created extraordinary results. The lesson was clear. Choose progress every day, and perfection will follow naturally as a result of growth. 5. Build unbreakable habits. Discipline is built, not gifted. Habits were the invisible hands that shaped people's lives. What they repeated daily eventually became who they were. One person who read a little each night became knowledgeable over the years. Another who avoided reading and wasted time scrolling grew weaker in mind. Success was not luck, it was the result of habits built with consistency. Building habits was not about sudden power. It was about small choices repeated until they became automatic. Brushing teeth never felt special, but doing it daily protected health for life. In the same way, practicing English 10 minutes a day did not look powerful, but over months and years, it created fluency. The brain loved patterns. Once an action was repeated enough, it no longer required willpower. It became natural, like breathing. The mistake many people made was starting too big. They promised to study English for 2 hours every day or to write 5 pages daily. The first day felt strong, but by the 5th day, they quit. The weight was too heavy. Real discipline grew slowly. It started with 1 minute, then 5, then 10. Just like muscles, habits needed training. Pushing too hard too soon only led to burnout. The secret to unbreakable habits was not motivation but structure. Motivation came and went like the wind. Structure stayed. When someone tied their habit to another daily activity, it became easier. For example, studying one English word after breakfast, or listening to an English podcast while walking. The connection made the habit stick because the brain liked routines. Every habit also needed a reason. Without a why, habits broke easily. A learner who studied English just because someone told them to would quit. But a learner who studied because they dreamed of traveling, working abroad, or reading books in the original language would persist. The reason gave strength when the road felt hard. Over time, habits built discipline, and discipline built freedom. People who had strong habits did not depend on willpower every morning. They simply acted. That power made them unstoppable. They did not argue with themselves about what to do. They followed the habits they had trained. In the end, unbreakable habits created an unbreakable person. Success was never about one giant effort. It was about small actions repeated so many times that they became part of identity. Once someone said, "I am a person who learns every day," they had already won. Their habits would carry them forward even when they felt tired, busy, or afraid. 6. Track your progress. Measured steps never get lost. Progress often felt invisible when people looked at their lives day by day. Someone could study English for a month and still feel weak. Another could exercise for weeks and not see changes in the mirror. This was why tracking progress mattered so much. When steps were measured, people could see proof that their effort was working. Tracking progress did not need to be complicated. It could be as simple as writing down how many pages were read, how many words were learned, or how many minutes were spent practicing. A notebook, a phone app, or even a calendar with marks was enough. Each mark told a story. I showed up today. I kept going. Over time, the marks built a chain of consistency. The longer the chain, the stronger the motivation to never break it. The human brain loved evidence. When someone looked back at their notes and saw that they had practiced English for 30 days straight, it gave them pride. That pride created energy to continue. Without proof, people forgot their victories. They felt stuck, even when they had already climbed higher than before. Tracking made invisible progress visible. It was also a way to fix mistakes faster. If a learner noticed they had skipped 3 days in a row, they could ask why. Maybe the habit was too hard, maybe the time was wrong, or maybe they needed a smaller step. Tracking revealed patterns that otherwise stayed hidden. It turned failure into information and information into growth. Even great athletes and successful entrepreneurs used this method. They did not trust memory alone. They trusted numbers, logs, and journals. By writing down their effort, they stayed honest with themselves. They could not lie about working hard when the page was empty. This honesty built discipline and removed excuses. Most importantly, tracking progress taught patience. It reminded people that change was slow but real. Just like a tree that grew quietly every day, results came from small steps repeated. A person who kept track of their journey could look back after a year and see the transformation. Without tracking, the same year felt wasted, even if growth had happened. In the end, those who tracked their progress became their own teachers. They no longer needed constant motivation from others, because their own history inspired them. Each mark on the calendar, each note in the journal, was proof. I am moving forward. I am not the same as yesterday. That truth was enough to keep them walking toward success. 7. Build routines, not motivation. Habits carry you when motivation disappears. Motivation was like fire. It burned bright but faded fast. Many people waited for motivation to arrive before they started working, but most days it never came. That was why routines were stronger than motivation. A routine did not ask if someone felt ready or inspired. It simply guided them to act, no matter the mood. A person who decided to study English only when they felt like it often skipped many days. But a person who created a daily routine, like practicing 10 minutes every morning after breakfast, made learning automatic. Their brain did not waste energy deciding when to study. The habit carried them forward even on days when they were tired or bored. Routines were like invisible structures around life. They gave shape to the day and removed confusion. Just like brushing teeth at night required no thought, a good routine made progress feel natural. The more consistent the routine, the less willpower was needed. People no longer fought with themselves, they simply followed the pattern they had built. Motivation depended on feelings, but routines depended on systems. Systems did not break easily. A system could be small, like writing one sentence in English each night or listening to a short podcast while walking. Once it was repeated daily, it became part of identity. I am someone who learns English every day. Identity was much stronger than feelings. Routines also created momentum. When a person repeated the same action for weeks, their brain expected it. Missing a day felt strange, like forgetting to eat. This momentum made discipline easier, because the cost of breaking the routine felt higher than the effort of continuing it. Even successful people in every field relied on routines. Writers wrote at the same time every day, athletes trained on fixed schedules, and business leaders had morning rituals. They did not wait for inspiration. They created systems that guaranteed progress. For English learners, the best routine was often simple. Choose a time, choose a small action, and repeat it daily. Over time, this small ritual grew into fluency. Motivation was good when it appeared, but routines were the safety net. They made sure the work got done even when the heart felt weak. In the end, routines turned ordinary people into masters. They replaced the need for constant motivation with quiet, steady power. And those who lived by routines discovered a secret. Discipline was not about strength, it was about design. 8. Track your progress. What gets measured gets improved. Many people worked hard but felt like nothing changed. The truth was not that progress was missing, but that progress was invisible. The human brain often forgot small victories, focusing only on what was still far away. That was why tracking progress was powerful. It showed the proof that small steps were building something big. When someone learned English, they might feel stuck because they still could not understand a fast movie or speak fluently. But if they tracked their progress, writing down new words learned each week, recording short audios of their speaking, or checking how many pages of a book they had read, they could see growth. Yesterday they knew 0 words, today they knew 50. Last month they could not read 1 page, now they could finish a chapter. Tracking progress created motivation. It reminded people that effort was not wasted. Each note in a journal, each checkmark on a calendar, each number written down was a seed of confidence. It turned, "I am failing," into, "I am moving forward, even if slowly." Successful people in every area measured their work. Athletes counted repetitions, writers tracked pages, business leaders reviewed results. They did not trust memory or feelings, they trusted data. Data showed the truth. Progress was happening, even when emotions said otherwise. For English learners, progress could be tracked in many ways. They could count how many minutes per day they practiced, how many new words they added to their vocabulary, or how many mistakes they corrected in writing. They could even mark a calendar with an X for every day they studied. Over weeks, the chain of X's became a picture of consistency. Breaking the chain felt harder than continuing. Tracking also revealed patterns. It showed when energy was high or low, when study was effective, and when it was wasted. With this information, people could adjust their systems and grow faster. Without tracking, mistakes repeated silently. With tracking, mistakes became lessons. The act of writing progress down was also a form of self-respect. It said, "My effort matters enough to record." That habit built pride and discipline. Over time, the record itself became a story, the story of someone who refused to quit. In the end, progress was not only about effort. It was about proof. And proof came from tracking. Those who measured their journey discovered that even the smallest victories added up to greatness. 9. Build habits, not motivation. Discipline beats inspiration. Motivation was like the weather, it came and went, sunny one day, stormy the next. Relying only on motivation meant that progress was unstable. Some days people felt strong and worked hard, but on other days they did nothing. That was why habits were stronger than motivation. Habits carried people forward when motivation disappeared. When someone brushed their teeth, they did not wait for inspiration. They just did it because it was part of daily life. Learning, working out, or practicing English could be the same. If it became a habit, the brain accepted it as normal, not optional. Then progress happened automatically. The power of habits came from repetition. At first, starting a new routine felt heavy. Reading 10 pages every evening or writing 3 English sentences every morning felt like extra work. But with time, the brain turned it into autopilot. The act no longer needed decision-making, it just happened. That was why habits were called the secret engine of success. People who depended only on motivation often quit when energy was low. But people who built habits kept going. They treated practice like brushing teeth, walking the dog, or making the bed, just something that belonged to the day. Those small, automatic actions added up to massive achievements over months and years. For English learners, building habits could mean choosing the same time every day to practice. It could be listening to a podcast while walking, reviewing flashcards before bed, or writing a short journal entry in the morning. Once the habit was formed, it stopped feeling like a chore. It became a natural part of life. Habits also created stability. Life was full of distractions, emotions, and unexpected problems. Motivation could not survive all of them. But habits acted like anchors, keeping the ship steady even in storms. A person with strong habits could face bad days, stress, or tiredness, but still move forward. In the end, success was never about motivation alone. It was about the habits built in silence, repeated daily, without applause. Discipline made dreams real. And once habits were in place, motivation returned naturally, because progress itself was inspiring. 10. Celebrate progress, not perfection. Small wins create big victories. Many people focused only on the finish line. They told themselves that happiness would come when they spoke perfect English, got the perfect job, or reached the perfect weight. But perfection never arrived, and so they always felt behind. The truth was that success was not only the final goal, it was the path itself. Celebrating progress gave energy to keep moving. When someone learned their first 10 English words, that was already a win. When they read their first full page without help, it was progress. When they dared to speak with a stranger and made mistakes but were understood, it was victory. These small wins deserved recognition. They were the building blocks of confidence. Focusing only on perfection created frustration. A person could improve every day but still feel like a failure because they were not yet fluent or perfect. But when they celebrated daily progress, the journey became lighter. Each step forward gave a reason to continue. Celebrating progress did not mean ignoring mistakes. It meant seeing both sides, noticing what still needed work, but also honoring what was already achieved. This balance kept the heart strong and the mind motivated. Without small celebrations, the path felt endless. With them, every day felt like a victory. The brain also worked better with rewards. When people smiled, clapped for themselves, or shared their achievements with others, their brain released positive chemicals. These emotions made the new habit stick. Over time, celebrating became fuel for discipline. For English learners, progress might look like finishing a book, holding a 5-minute conversation, or simply understanding a new song. Each of these moments was proof that they were moving forward. By celebrating them, they trained themselves to see growth instead of lack. In the end, perfection was not the goal. Growth was. And growth happened step by step, day by day, with small wins stacking into greatness. Those who celebrated progress found joy in the journey, and joy gave them the strength to reach higher mountains. Thank you for your attention. If you like the story, please like and subscribe. It motivates us to make new videos and helps us promote the channel. Thank you.